The truce between Israel and Lebanon is under serious strain as the Israeli occupation army announces it will extend its stay in southern Lebanon beyond the agreed 60-day deadline. This move comes despite repeated calls from the Lebanese government, Hezbollah and the international community for full compliance with the ceasefire terms. What are the reasons behind Israel's refusal to withdraw? And what are the implications of these developments for Lebanon and the broader Middle East? Welcome to In-Depth.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
According to the New York Times, as the 60-day deadline for Israeli forces to withdraw from southern Lebanon passed, violence has erupted. At least 3 people were killed and more than 40 injured when Israeli troops opened fire on civilians returning to their homes. The ceasefire agreement, signed in November, called for the withdrawal of both Israeli forces and Hezbollah, with the Lebanese army and UN peacekeepers deployed in southern Lebanon. However, Israeli forces remained in parts of the region, violating the truce and causing fears of a prolonged occupation. The newspaper added that the Lebanese civilians displaced by the war are returning to destroyed villages, while Israel continues to block roads and issue warnings about their return. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has warned of retaliation, while the situation is complicated due to the shifting political landscape in Lebanon. Al-Ahram has reported that Israeli forces violated the ceasefire agreement by failing to withdraw from southern Lebanon, killing at least 3 civilians and injuring 40 others. The violence took place when residents attempted to return to their towns after the deadline for the Israeli withdrawal passed. The casualties were reported in the towns of Bilda, Atirun and Hola, with additional injuries in several other border areas. The newspaper added that the Israeli military prohibited residents from returning to 66 towns, claiming the Lebanese army and Hezbollah had not fulfilled their obligations under the agreement. Despite this, many Lebanese civilians attempted to return, facing roadblocks rather than Israeli military presence. The UN peacekeeping force reported Israeli troops setting up roadblocks and demolishing structures, further complicating the return of displaced residents. The Israeli occupation army has ignored the agreed-upon deadline for withdrawal from southern Lebanon, intensifying tensions and violating the ceasefire. Israel's actions raise questions about its intentions and the future of the conflict.
Israel's decision to extend its occupation of southern Lebanon beyond this 60-day deadline has reignited tensions in the region. The ceasefire agreement, brokered by France and the United States, required a full withdrawal of Israeli forces and the deployment of Lebanese army and United Nations peacekeeping forces along the border. However, the Israeli occupation forces' failure to comply with the agreement has drawn sharp criticism from Lebanon, Hezbollah, and the international community. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has firmly asserted that Israeli forces must withdraw from the south within the deadline set by the agreement. Aoun has reportedly been in contact with the United States and French officials, urging them to pressure Israel to honor its commitment and complete the withdrawal within the stipulated time frame. Hezbollah has issued strong warnings, labeling any delay beyond the agreed-upon deadline as both unacceptable and a violation of Lebanon's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Lebanese army, though prepared, is facing significant challenges due to the ongoing Israeli presence and the complexities it has introduced. The international community, including France and the United Nations, has voiced concern over Israel's actions. Despite this, Israel maintains that its withdrawal is contingent upon the full deployment of the Lebanese army, which it claims has been delayed. As tensions escalate, the situation remains precarious, with the Lebanese government continuing to push for a complete and immediate end to the Israeli occupation.
For more analysis, we are joined from Cairo by Ahmed Yunus, an academic researcher and political analyst, and from Beirut by Iman Shweikh, political researcher. A very warm welcome to the show. And Mr. Yunus, we start off with you, sir. Sir, the Israeli occupation army has announced that it will continue its stay in southern Lebanon beyond the agreed-upon deadline. What are Israel's goals from staying in southern Lebanon, and what does this tell us about Israel's commitment to the ceasefire agreement, especially that Israeli forces opened fire on civilians returning to their homes, sir?
The ceasefire agreement clearly stipulates that the Israeli occupation forces must fully withdraw from southern Lebanon with 60 days as a time frame. So the Lebanese army is then expected to take responsibility for security and deployment in the region, in coordination, of course, with the United Nations forces, the UNIFIL. So, however, what we are witnessing now is Israel's attempt to extend its occupation of the eastern sector in southern Lebanon, citing claims that the Lebanese army's deployment is insufficient. So, we see that Israel questioning the army's ability to disarm Hezbollah and dismantle its installation in the area. So, this suggests that Israel is determined to maintain its military presence in several strategic points along the border, using the pretext of safeguarding its security, and asserting that its mission that it is not yet complete. So I think that the Israel actions serve several purposes. First, they aim to undermine the credibility of Arab and international parties involved in this agreement. Second, they appear as if to be testing the stance of Trump administration to identify any shifts.
Testing, sir, I beg your pardon, testing what again, please?
I'm talking about they tried to testing the Trump administration.
In which way, sir? In which way are they trying to test the Trump administration? Towards Israeli policies and what they're doing?
If there is any shift in U.S. policy compared to the under President Joe Biden, so maybe if there is a tacit approval, for example, from Trump administration, this means leads us to think about that this extension of its presence might also serve as a strategy to provoke Iran and draw it into initiating dialogue with the United States. If they have an approval, and tacit approval.
Okay, Mr. Yunus, if I understand you right, or well, you want to say that Israel is testing the Trump administration when it comes to violating and breaching the international or the ceasefires that are taking place, agreements which are taking place on the ground now and were supposed to take place and be in action today. This is one case, and they're trying to provoke Iran on the other side. Is this what you want to tell us?
I mean, if there is an approval not announced by the United States, so this means that it is just to provoke Iran, to provoke Iran and to make a pressure on Iran for to start a dialogue under pressure.
Got you, sir. Ms. Iman, welcome to the program. Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun has demanded Israel's full withdrawal by the deadline, which is supposedly to be today. How is Lebanon responding to Israel's failure to meet this demand?
Actually, this declaration is too late because today is supposed to be the end of the Israeli forces' presence in the southern. Actually, the responsibility lies on all the political parties, specifically those who demand their conditions for the formation of the government, because the government is the only party the only part able to prevent the Israeli forces from what's going on now in the south. So this was really normal to see what happened today in the morning, how the southern individuals went by themselves to enter their villages without any protection from the state. Yes, we had the Lebanese military there, but there was no specific and clear plan to protect those people. And the death toll is escalating now, is increasing. We have more than 15 people lost their lives and more than 40 injured. So this is the responsibility of the failure state that the political old political parties are trying.
Which old, Ms. Iman? Sorry to interrupt you, but what do you mean by old?
I mean the political powers, the political parties that keep...
That brokered the ceasefire, you mean?
Excuse me?
You mean the old parties that brokered the ceasefire, or what do you mean in old?
I mean the political parties that established Al-Ta'if agreement and or participated in Al-Ta'if agreement, and that divided all the interests of Lebanon for just their presence and their control over people. So those parties, those political parties, hold the responsibility today of not achieving the implementation or achieving the ceasefire agreement that was able to protect the rights of all parties, and especially after what we had in the Middle East, the change of the Middle East, the new Middle East that ended the control of Iran on Lebanon. Now we have a new Lebanon with a new authority and a new state, a new president, a new government. But unfortunately, some of the parties try to put obstacles in the formation of the state in order to keep their interests and in order to keep this threat by Israel to have reasons to, if we want to say, Hezbollah is trying to keep this threat in order to have the authority to keep its weapons and its military tools and its presence in the new state. Although a few days ago, Hezbollah declared that it's willing to cooperate with the state in order to achieve the agreement. But I think we're living in a big mess in Lebanon, and we still need too much time to build a real state that will have the trust from the national community and also the trust of Israel. It doesn't mean that we're seeking the trust of Israel, but Israel now is given reasons that there's no implementation. So there's no trust in the state. That's why it's trying to implement.
It's Israel's fault, Ms. Iman. It's not the fault of Lebanon or the agreement or the ceasefire. Israel did not implement the ceasefire.
Yeah, but upon the agreement, Hezbollah did not retreat behind
Okay, I'll be back
Netanyahu.
to you again. Mr. Yunus, Israel used the delay in the Lebanese army deployment as an excuse to extend their presence in southern Lebanon. And the Lebanese army released a statement that they're ready to deploy, but delayed by Israel's, of course, withdrawal. Is the Lebanese army, sir, ready to fully deploy? And what are the obstacles caused by the IOF's continued presence?
According to many reports and statements, the Lebanese army has not delayed its deployment in the southern
Exactly,
region.
sir, it hasn't delayed.
Yeah, no. In fact, it has successfully taken control of all areas vacated by Israeli forces. So during its deployment and in coordination with the UNIFIL, the army dismantled all Hezbollah installations and removing weapons found in these areas. This was confirmed also by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres during his last visit to Lebanon, where he stated that both the Lebanese army and the UNIFIL have been working systematically to remove weapons and military structures in every area they enter. So Israel's justification for maintaining its presence in the eastern sector of southern Lebanon does not align with the facts on the ground. The Lebanese army's inability to deploy in the eastern sector is just because what? Because due to the continued presence of Israeli forces, which have not yet withdrawn from the area. So, as we have seen today, we witnessed a powerful example of local resistance as residents of villages in the eastern sector organized a march, a peaceful demonstration, just to enter their villages and towns. And tragically, we see who used the violence by Israel used live ammunition to prevent villagers from entering their homes.
Mr. Yunus, how can we stop Israel from violating every single ceasefire?
How can we
stop Israel from breaching and violating every single ceasefire on every level, sir? Specifically the one in Lebanon that is violated today, yes, that was supposed to end today.
The government tries to take the diplomatic track by mobilizing the international community. And we have seen that Hezbollah, during all this period, he doesn't make any violation. All the violations, more than 1,000 violations by Israel. So I think that the pressure that could be done by the international committee and or community, especially we have seen the Cyprus president and President Macron visit, and the Saudi Arabia and foreign minister.
Okay, I'll go back, sir. I'll be back again, but I'll go back to Ms. Iman. Ms. Iman, Hezbollah has warned that any deal will be considered a violation of the ceasefire. What are the possible consequences of that, and how likely is an escalation given the IOF presence?
I don't think that we have a resumption for the war in the future, but what's happening is actually it's a win-win battle, if we can say, for Hezbollah and for Israel. Today it was like a propaganda for Hezbollah, who showed everyone that the only way to protect the southern villages and the southern individuals is by resistance. But the truth is in another place, because if Hezbollah did not open the war on October 8th, this wouldn't happen.
Okay, Ms. Iman, let's go back again to Israel, please. And the core of the idea that the ceasefire was supposed to be implemented today, and today was the end of the day that they were it's breaching and violating a ceasefire that was dealt upon. Let's discuss Israel and why Israel is taking all these actions towards southern Lebanon at this point, and why are we now postponing the implementation of the ceasefire, please?
Because the Lebanese military didn't deploy in all the villages, and the reason was that it's not possible to enter those forces, the Lebanese forces, to enter the villages at the same time of the presence of the Israeli forces. So, as I told you before, it's the responsibility of the state that did not put a clear strategy of the implementation of the 27 November agreement.
Okay, then your main point here is that there was no clear strategy for the implementation of this agreement. Ms. Iman, do you think we will go back again to when we have to negotiate hostilities again?
Actually, the current United States administration and in cooperation with the previous one, with President, the former President Joe Biden, they agreed on finishing all or ending all the wars in the Middle East. And what confirmed what I'm saying is what happened in Gaza Strip, the end of war there, although we are still in the first phase, but at least the celebrations are ongoing, whether in Washington or in Gaza, and hostages are keeping to return from both sides. So I don't think that Trump will, the current the American president, will accept the intentions and the targets of Benjamin Netanyahu, who wants to buy more time to not to go to the jail at the end of all the wars.
Then, Ms. Iman, you touched the point now that Benjamin Netanyahu is buying time not to go to jail, of course, because he's, of course, criminal, and he's, of course, there are genocides and atrocities all over the Middle East. And we move on to Mr. Yunus. Mr. Yunus, the United Nations and France have urged Israel to respect the 60-day deadline. How do you think the international community can pressure Israel to comply with the ceasefire terms, sir?
About the international committee?
The United Nations and France, sir, have urged Israel to respect the 60-day deadline, which, of course, Israel breached and violated today. How do you think the international community can pressure Israel to comply with the ceasefire terms, sir?
I think that the strong alignment of Arab and international voices highlights a unified stance in favor of Lebanon's territorial integrity. So the international and Arab communities have recognized Lebanon's legitimate demands and are urging Israel to comply with the provision of the ceasefire agreement. We have seen the Lebanese president are so active in the last 2 days, engaging in diplomatic efforts, and this especially when the communication with the French president and all the leaders of nations that play a role in monitoring the ceasefire agreement. Ms.
Iman, France and the United States have played a role in brokering the ceasefire, but now they seem to be divided on Israel's actions. What role do these international actors play in the ongoing crisis? But please, as soon as possible, because I have to wrap up the program.
Well, actually, the United States was trying to withdraw from the Middle East before October 7, 2023. But after the Iranian acts failed in controlling Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza by the arms of Iran, now it's the responsibility of the United States and the Western forces, actually. So I don't think they will accept the targets or the aim
the division between France and the United States, Ms. Iman.
Excuse me?
The division between both that brokered this ceasefire, France and the United States.
Each country has a specific role in Lebanon in terms of the relation, the historical relation between those countries and Lebanon. If we go to the relation between France and Lebanon, it's a historical one, and France is able to play a big role as a mediator between Lebanon or Hezbollah and Israel, especially that there is, we can say, a good, relatively good relationship between Paris and Hezbollah. So I think we will witness the withdrawal of both parties, Israel and Hezbollah, from the southern, and the deployment of the military, Lebanese military forces after at least if we can say, the phases of ceasefire in Gaza.
Ms. Iman, I'm very sorry because I have to wrap up now this program. I'm out of time. I really thank you very much for your intake and for your insights. That was Ahmed Younes, an academic researcher and political analyst, and from Beirut, is Iman Shweikha, political researcher. Thank you very much both for your insights and valuable knowledge and informative knowledge. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.